Hello everyone, my name is Clantis and welcome to the Real Clantis tutorials. So we are still on Vlogtober 2022 and today it is day 23. Day 23 people, this is where we are at, crunch time. Actually no, 25th will be the crunch time. Look at me ahead of myself now. So today I had a very relaxed day. I did finish my editing of my true crime video, which is now live for the past 2 hours or so. It's a continuation of the satanic killings in Krugersdorp. That is a very heavy case, so heavy, and I must say editing it this time around kind of gave me perspective of so many things that are out there, how some people live their lives and how some of us are so oblivious to the type of people that we meet, interact with, work with, people that you never thought were capable of anything like what we saw in the video. And some people are quite visible. When you look at them, you'll be like, if I met you in the dark alley, I will become Michael Schumacher together with that sprinter, the fastest sprinter in the world. What's his name? Yeah, him. I'll become everything to like. I know it's judgmental, but the thing is sometimes you just feel a person's spirit that I think I may be in danger here. It's a fact of life. But anyways, today's Sunday. And of course, you know guys, Sunday has now become a storytelling of my Vlogtober 2022. So you guys kept asking for more stories. You want me to tell more stories and reveal more of myself? Okay, fine. So today's story time is one that I avoid talking about at all costs because it makes me feel somewhat whenever people get shocked. It's the kind of shock that I get is the same shock I get when people say, you don't have a child? You don't have a child? Then it makes you realize that, oh my goodness, you cannot be a 17-year-old in South Africa without a child. And definitely you cannot be a 25-year-old without at least 2 children, let alone in your late 30s into your 40s and you don't have 5 or 6 children all over the show. People get shocked like, what? So same goes with alcohol. When people hear that I don't drink alcohol, the shock on their faces is amazing. It's priceless. So on Friday I had that kind of a question like, why don't you drink alcohol? Is there something that it does to you? And so I kind of like told the story, but on the surface of it, I didn't get deeper. I guess I was just trying to have a conversation. You know, those conversations that you have at gatherings to show that you are interested in this person's questions and conversation. So that's how I told it, but then it gave me an idea that, hey, maybe it's time you told the story of why you don't drink alcohol. Are you allergic? Is there something behind that? I can tell you right now, I think my body at this point in time, because okay, let me just start it off this way. Alcohol is not a habit, or drinking of alcohol is not a habit that I picked up. If you listened to my story last Sunday, I belong to this church. And in this church, there were very strict rules about everything. The only rule that was short of them implementing was about how to breathe oxygen. So there were all kinds of rules basically, and when they got me at a very young age, especially the age where you are starting to experiment with things, and the things that you experiment with, you end up either liking them or not liking them, or something that you do on occasion type of thing. So of course I did not pick up all these habits that probably are normal to many people, like drinking alcohol, like smoking, like going clubbing, because I've never ever to this very day been inside of a nightclub. And in my time, we've gone through, I grew up during the disco days. So of course I hear about disco, never experienced it because I was still too young to be going to a disco. And then, but my time in the early 2000s, like my teen into my 20s, we had a rave. I don't know if you remember rave. We had rave, we had street bashes, which I've never been to a street bash, I've never been to a rave either. Of course there was clubbing, and I think there are different kinds of clubs as well that you found back in the 90s into early 2000s. What else that was there? Me, I was just a person that listened to music. I was into music. My favorite radio station that I was always on was Highfield Stereo 94.7. Back then it was called 94.7. I used to listen to the likes of Reverend John. Okay, it was so long time ago, I'm forgetting names. But anyways, it was when Highfield Stereo used to play that type of music that not many people listen to. I listen to them because, of course, of the type of influence I also had in high school. So I was kind of like living two different lives. I had a high school life and I had a church life. And these two did reconcile, because at school you are there 75% of the day and it's only boys, so there's no temptation of lusting, lusting, and there was no opportunities of doing anything that the church might consider sin or worldly or unacceptable or whatever the case might be. So I think the church was comfortable with the fact that I was a pupil rather than being out there in the world and living my life and experimenting, experiencing and making mistakes, blah blah, and all that sort of stuff. So coming back to the reason why I don't drink is because the main reason is because I belonged to this church. However, I do have an experience with alcohol. And this story starts when, so there are three stories in one that I'm going to tell, because all three of them are related to the very same experience, I suppose. But let me start with alcohol. So I adored my dad when I was growing up. My dad used to drink, I don't know what is it. You know, that's where I get a little confused when it comes to types of alcohol. So my dad used to drink VO. I don't know whether that is a brandy or it's a whiskey. What is it? Spirits, something like that. He drank VO. It was a brown substance, a type of alcohol, and he would pour it in. Okay, let's assume this is a glass, whatever glass. I think it's brandy. I think. Then he would pour something about this much, and then he would wobble it. And he would have this facial expression. Sometimes he will not have this facial expression on his face. So I always thought that the facial expression was the joy that this thing was going down his throat and making him feel great, because after that, if he was angry and he took one gulp, he would become so fun and so daddy-like, and he would do daddy stuff, you know, a son and a father type of thing, type of vibe. And he was just so funny. He would be fun with my mom, and I liked that. I was like, oh my goodness, I want to be like this man when I grow up. But I was curious. Oh, that's another thing that you need to know about me. I'm a very, very curious person. When I was growing up, I used to be extremely curious. So I was The type of curious boy that if you bought me, I don't know if you remember those toy guns, whenever you pull the trigger, somewhere, if the gun was like almost transparent or translucent, you can literally see sparks, like go bzz, 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 and you see sparks. What do you think Clantis did? Because Clantis wanted to know, how on earth does this work? How does it create that spark? How does the spark hurt when it touches my skin? That type of thing. So of course, what I will do is I will tear it apart, because I want to see what is it that is making this thing. Number one, when I pull the trigger, it makes that noise. And when it makes that noise, why I see sparks. And then why other toy guns don't do the same thing as this one. So I was the type of child when especially Christmas Day, especially Christmas time, birthdays, I'm not sure which other days as well, I would get like toy presents. In my street, my brother and I used to have the most toys, and many kids used to come to our house to play with our toys, and also got a lot of our toys stolen. I know, guys, I'm coming back to the alcohol. I just need to explain what led me to doing what I did, because I was a curious child. I was very, very curious, but I would tear something apart, but the problem is putting it back together. Even to this day, I cannot use these hands of mine for any reason. I don't use these. I only use it to grab things, wash myself, maybe carry stuff that are not heavy, because if you're gonna give me heavy stuff, these hands will drop it like on the ground, everything broken, especially if it's fragile. So the only thing that I like using is this, and then this of course translates here, and that is the end. Don't ask me to use my hands. I'm not good at that. So anyways, I would have a problem every time when I got beaten. I got beaten because I tore a toy apart, and now I'm struggling to put it back together. Same goes with our television. I did the same thing. Same goes with our telephone. All these things were the first things those are the things that we had for the first time. I wanted to know, how do we see these people? Why are they in the box? Remove the whole thing and find out there's these complicated wires and engines and all that sort of stuff. Putting it back together, okay. And then I just wanted to know how many things work. One of the reasons why I'm also scared of electricity today is because this fool right here puts his finger in a socket while it was alive, and my entire body was gray. It turned gray because I got shocked. So now let's circle back. So one day, when I started school, my mom used to give me money to carry for lunch. My dad also used to give me money to carry for lunch. My grandmother also gave me money to carry at lunch. So I kind of like had more than enough to carry to school every day. So I found out, somehow I found out how much this size VO was. I don't know, I think it's called a nip. It's a nip, right? Yeah, a pint. Okay, between the two, pint or nip, this size of VO. So I gathered my friends and I was like, hey guys, you want to be like our dads? They're like, yeah. And then this one will tell you, my dad drinks this and my dad drinks that. 3 of our dads drank the same brand alcohol. And so we thought, okay, now let's try and put money together and go buy ourselves that. So now we had a problem of buying it in the bottle store because we were kids. But at the same time, back in the day, your dad would send you to buy him these things, but my dad never used to do with me. Some of my friends, their fathers used to send them. So these other ones like, no, the bottle store know me because I always buy for my dad. So give it to me, I'll go buy it. So we gave him the money. He came back with it. So we went in our township. Our township has, like, on the outskirt of it, there's like a small stream at the back. There's a small stream, and it's also bushy. Oh yeah, it's almost bushy with shrubs and all kinds of nature. And so there it's also quite sandy as well, and then it had a bank, like a river bank. So what we had done was we created like a makeshift house, like a shack basically, but then made of blankets, sheets, and all that sort of stuff. So we get in there, and then we came with like these small cups, and then we started pouring the same amount of oh, is it what? Is it I'm trying to get the measurements. Basically the same amount of alcohol in our cups. And so the first guy threw it back in, and he was like doing this sort of stuff, and the second one, and his face was just weird. And I was like, okay, I went also my turn. I was also competitive. It's my turn. Then I throw the alcohol in my mouth. Immediately I felt the burns. I felt funny. I felt literally everything around me just started spinning like in slow motion. And I was like, what is going on? And then boom, to the ground. I fell to the ground, and I don't even know if I swallowed. Well, actually I did swallow, because there are things that happened to me after that. So here we were, knocked out cold inside this makeshift shack. And so it was like in the afternoonish, because we had come back from school. We came back from school around 1:30. So of course it's getting in the late afternoon. Our parents are returning from work, and we ought to have bathed and sitting on the couch watching television in our respective homes. But come 6 o'clock, none of us are at our homes. None of us. We are all knocked out cold in this makeshift shack. And so our parents, of course, the rule was never let the street lights go on without you in the house. Otherwise, I will get belted like while taking a shower. That was my mom. So all the parents are like on the streets calling our names, and none of us are responding. None of us. And so they call our names, and they all converge at my place, wondering what had happened to the kids. So one of the things that in my township used to go around, I think they were trying to make us scared, like children are not supposed to see funerals or be at a funeral. So whenever we saw a hearse, you see a hearse, we supposed to hold this part of our hair until the hearse passed. I don't know why. And so there was a rumor of this hearse that kidnapped kids, and then will put a nail in the middle of their skull. I don't know to do what with them. And so the parents were discussing things like that. What if? So they went to that funeral home where they suspect that the owner, that's what they did with children. But of course it was a rumor. It was not true. I don't know who started the rumor, because we were terrified of anything that was hearse. If I saw a hearse, to this very day, I am uncomfortable around hearses. I don't like a hearse. I like the fact that today, hearses don't look like hearses, if you know what I mean. They are either a limousine or a bakkie of some sort that is fancy and things like that. So a hearse, no. But anyways, they were looking everywhere for us. It got dark. Everybody was looking inside the township, and nobody thought of going to the outskirts and going to the embankment and find us there. Nobody did that, because we hardly ever went down there. No kid went down there, because it was bushy, and it was summer during this time, and in the forest or the bush was green, and there were also snakes on the other side. So nobody thought, let's go and check them there. So I think somewhere around 9 p.m. ish or so, some of my friends came to. And when they came to, of course, what did they do? They went home, leaving us lying there. I think it was just me and my next door neighbor. We were just still like lying there on the sand. They went there to their homes. Everybody was asking, hey, where's Clantis? That is my home. At home they call me Clantis. That's everybody at home call me Clantis. Where's Clantis? Where's Clantis? And these boys, they are still a little bit disoriented, but they were not saying anything about, okay, you'll find them on the other side. So the entire night, they're now looking for us. They even involved the police this time, and the police tried to interrogate these other boys about where my whereabouts and my next door's neighbor. And my mom at this point in time, she is finished. Like she was expecting bad news. She was expecting bad news and all of that stuff. My dad was in a state. So around 4-5ish in the morning, my next door neighbor wakes up. I'm still stone cold. He goes home. When he goes home, everybody's excited and they're asking him, where's Ntanta? Where's Ntanta? And then he like faintly points at where I am. They're like, but that's where he is. So now the police run there, and indeed they find me lying on the floor. And then I remember I could feel somebody carrying me, but you know when you feel something, but you feel as though you are in a distance. I could hear my mom's voice, but it was as though I was somewhere far away. And I could hear her faintly say, if he gets up, he and I are going to have a serious talk. And my dad is begging for me. Like, no, man, you see, when you are always quick to discipline him like this, you need to, like, yeah, this is the whole reason why he's like this is because of you. Now he's blaming my father. And I could hear them arguing in my presence, but I still could not move. I don't think I was even blinking, but the paramedics, when they were called, apparently I was still breathing. And now these are the things that they saw. They saw that blood was coming through my tear ducts. I had blood coming through my nostrils. I also had some blood coming through my my mouth. And so the paramedic is telling my mom that he smells of alcohol. Not just any alcohol, but somewhere around the strong stuff. And then my mom is looking at my dad, and then they are shouting at each other like, yeah, you drink in front of this boy, blah, 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 blah. How many times have I told you, do not drink and smoke in front of this boy, blah, 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 blah. And you know what type of son you have, he's gonna want to do that. They just went on. And then while I'm lying there, so of course I was cleaned down, wiped and all that stuff. The paramedics was like, he's going to be okay. All you have to do from this point on, just feed him water. Let him drink a lot of water so that it can revive his liver. My liver bruised when the alcohol came because we did not dash it with anything. My dad never dashed it. I never seen my father dashing his alcohol with anything. So when I drank, my small and vulnerable, fragile liver got harmed, got bruised by the alcohol, hence the blood popping all over where there was holes on my face. And so eventually, of course, around midday, I started making movements. I started showing life and strength and all of that. They made me sit up, and I was so ashamed. The thing that made me ashamed was the fact that I know my mom is disappointed, and if there's one human being on this earth I never wanted to disappoint, was my mother. Never one. But I felt, oh my God, this I'll never do again. I'll never embarrass my mom and make her be disappointed of me. And so I was looking down and she came. You know how mothers are like, there. She was angry, but now she had calmed down and she realizes, oh my goodness, my child is safe. Let me not do what I had planned to do to him. So she sat next to me and was like, are you okay? And I'm like, no, I'm fine. And she's like, look at me, and I couldn't. And she was, turning my head towards her, but I just could not bring myself to it because I knew she was disappointed. I heard her tell my dad how disappointed she is that at such a young age. I was a preteen when this happened, guys. A preteen. This is before the church got a hold of me. Eventually, during the course of the day, my mom started feeding me, made sure that I drank water. She literally even took me and sat me on her lap like I was a toddler. I literally slept on her chest. And she kept rocking me back and forth. But at the same time, thinking, yeah, I am being prepared for the belt. The way this woman is going to belt me. So I'm having all kinds of thoughts, and yet she's rocking me, rubbing my head and asking me if I'm okay. She was just maternal, so maternal the entire time. So eventually, I became better over the few days. I didn't get a beating. My mom was fine. Supposedly she had forgiven me, and of course I also forgot all about it. Then returned back to school. Then I went back to school, and then life went on as usual. Do you think Clantis stopped being curious to people? Do you think Clantis stopped being curious? So my dad had this habit that whenever he's relaxing and he's smoking. Now, my dad used to smoke Mills. I don't know if Mills is still around, the one in the yellow pack. Yep. Yeah, I think it's yellow pack and golden handwriting and golden writing. So he used to smoke that. So whenever he smoked Mills, when he's relaxed, he would make these shapes that look like clouds. Like I don't know what he did with his mouth. And when he blew the smoke, it was so well organized out of his mouth, and it was like these clouds with holes, and it looked so attractive. And I thought, okay, I don't think this is going to harm me, but I want to try it out. What do you think Clantis did? Once again, gathered his friends, and then we put together some money and we went and bought the same amount. My dad used to smoke 30. It was this big. The box was about this big, and then it had 30 of these cigarettes inside. So we bought that. Once again, we went back to our makeshift outside, just out the outskirts of the township, and then we basically we bought a box of match, and we started distributing these cigarette stuff. Now the thing is, we don't know what to do. Number one, none of us know how to strike a match. Number two, we don't know, once the thing is in our mouth, what do we do? So we try to figure out, me thinking that I know how to strike a match. I always say my dad. So my dad used to do it this way, instead of, like, he would do something like this, and then boom, the flames, and then he would put it against his cigarette, and then he will start smoking. So let me tell you something. 4 boxes of matches, because we bought this big one. I don't know how many there are inside, but they're in this big thingy, because we did not want to buy a single. I don't know why we did that. So 4 boxes gone, because we're trying to strike a flame, but none will come on. Eventually, one of us managed. And when one of us managed, and now I'm the one who's holding my cigarette, and then instead of pulling, I blow. When I blow, of course, I blow the flame off. Everybody, now you see, we left with, and literally, we were left with 3 sticks of matches in this one last box. So we thought, okay, now what do we do? None of us, there's like 6 of us, and none of us is saying, how about pulling? Maybe we need to pull. So how do I discover that you need to pull? It's me. Because I thought, okay, if when you blow, we blow the flame off, how about when I pull back, what's going to happen? So he manages once again to strike up a flame, and quickly I put my cigarette and I pull, and then when I pulled, it was with such force that the smoke, I've never felt that kind of pain in my life. The pain from here going down my chest and the coughing and the confusion, I went straight to the ground, like on the ground. My head started spinning and I was like, whoa, deja vu. And my friends split, like they ran away, leaving me all by me stupid self in this makeshift shack. And now stone cold again. Stone cold. Fortunately, this time around, it happened around, it was a Saturday, I think. Yeah, it was a Saturday when we did this, if not a Sunday. But it was a day we were not going to school. And so I lay there. Do you think my friends ran to my mom or my dad or their own parents and say, hey, you need to go check him out? No, they are all afraid of getting beaten. Now, in my township, they say it takes a village to raise a child. It reigns true to this very day. Next door neighbor, if they see me doing something that I'm not supposed to be doing, they were given the authority to whip me. So now every one of them, it was every man for themselves. They're like, there is no way I'm going to be beaten for Unkla. And how do I explain what we were doing there? And then they see all these cigarette butts. We don't have butts at that time. They were still like cigarettes, sticks. How do they explain themselves? So they just went about their day. They played. Apparently that particular day, they played the most amazing game. The games that we played, but that particular day, it was incredible. So when I'm told later. So I did not go home for lunch. And then that is another rule, that you come home when it's lunchtime. It doesn't matter when you come with a whole school of your friends, but you need to eat lunch. I did not come home for lunch. Of course, that raised alarm bells. And my mom knew exactly where to go to look for me. And my mom that particular day was also off. And then she came to the makeshift, and there I was lying down. She was like, and I could hear this woman say, you know, when you are going to be the death of me, if you are not going to be the death of me, I am going to spend life in prison, if not the death penalty imposed on me because of you. She carried me home. This time she sees cigarettes all over, and then she collects these cigarettes together with the box, comes home. When my dad comes back from work, she was like, look at your son, beka ingane yakho imsebenzi yakho, beka. This is what I found. What has it done to him? My dad was like, no, he's gonna recover. If you take this for the first time, of course it's a boy. He probably pulled and it hurt his lungs. The smoke is still probably in his lungs as we speak. So my dad explains everything, that how I'm going to be fine. And I did become fine. By 5 p.m. I was back to my old self. And this time around, my mom was like, well, now I'm your guest. I knew when she tells me your guest or what is going, meaning go bath, I know what is going to happen, because I'm not supposed to be told to go bath. I have to know that I need to go bath before I sit on the couch and watch television and eat dinner. So I knew what's going to happen, and it did happen. I did give myself, you know, me, I'm the type of a kid that when I know I've done wrong and I'm going to be beaten, I want it over and done with. Do not prolong it. Do not hold it from me. Do it. Let's get over it. So I went to the bathroom, and then indeed it rained. It rained. And eventually, I, of course, cried. After that, my dad was hurt for me, because he always gets hurt for me. So he was like, okay, I need to have a talk with this boy. And then I told him, I like it when you do this. So he was like, so it's my fault? I'm like, you're my dad. Of course, I watch everything you do and I emulate everything that you do. And this is a person that I want to become when I am older. I want to become you. And my dad and I, as you see this, you are actually looking at my father. Now that I'm growing a little older, I see also a remnants of my mom coming in. But everything else, the gaps between my teeth, my eyes, my nose, my forehead, my father. This part of my body is my mom. So I'm a mixture of both of them. So of course I'm gonna want to, oh, by the way, apparently when my mom was pregnant, he denied me, said no, he did not make my mom pregnant until I was born. And everybody's like, boy, you better go take responsibility because that child is a spitting image of you. And made an enemy out of my grandmother because my grandmother did not like him for that reason. But anyways, they ended up reconciling. So that is the person I wanted to be like, my dad. And so anything and everything. So he stopped smoking and drinking in my presence thereafter. And of course, life went on. And then all this political violence started happening in my township and everywhere else in KZN. And of course, we had to flee. We fled to Swaziland, eventually coming back in 1993 and came and lived here in Johannesburg. Now in Johannesburg, I promise I'm about to be done because there's the last one that I did, almost similar to this one. So I come to Joburg, then become a disciple, and then becoming a disciple, there was this lady. So now in the church, we used to call each other brothers and sisters. So for the purpose of this story, I'm going to call this woman a sister, but it's not exactly a woman, but because she was about 3 years older than me. And so we became friends. Now, this sister used to have the habit of snuff, snuff, ne? Or sniff, or whichever way you pronounce it. So she used to take snuff and put it under her tongue. And the way she used to do it in such a way that it was so nice, like cool. She would go into her thingy, open it, put her little finger, and then put it under her tongue. And then she would continue talking, and then I'll ask myself, what does this thing do? What does it do to you? Clantis. Do you think Clantis did not stop with just a question? And at this time, I'm like 14 years old. I'm 14 years old at this point. And so I go and get my own of this, whatever, that container. And I go home. This particular day, I was alone. It was a weekend. I'm very much domesticated. I like doing housework. My mom never told me to clean the house. The house was always found clean by her. And then when she's doing it at home, I would tell her, relax, I'll do everything. I learned cooking from her. I learned how to clean the house and do all these domesticated things. So eventually, I get home, I clean the house, and I cook dinner. This is now around 2 p.m. I cook dinner early so that when my mom arrives from work, she just go to the bathroom, take a shower, and kick her legs up and have dinner and watch television, go to bed and prepare herself for the next day for work. And so here I was, I'm done, I'm relaxed, everything is done, the house is clean, I feel great. So I go and take that container, and then I'm sitting by myself and I'm like, what is it that this girl gets out of this? And then here I am, and the moment this black substance called snuff went under my tongue, I have never seen the world spin so fast. And I was standing at that time. I was standing when I put the first swipe under my tongue. I've never seen the world spin so fast. It was so fast that I was now standing something like this to try to get balance, but my knees were being jellified. They were becoming jelly. And as a result of that, I kind of felt like, when you drop a camera and then it goes, the world now looks this direction. that was me. I was on the floor and I remember being in a fetal position because my head, I don't know what was happening to my head. And I remember my brain telling me, close your eyes. Close. Now, how do you close your eyes when you are trying to take control of your body? You are trying to take control of your hands. I couldn't even move them. In my mind, I was thinking I'm able to move my arm up or to get up, but that action was not taking place. I felt like my spirit was out of my body. I could literally see my body laying in a fetal position, and then my spirit is up here in the air. I was like, am I dead? Am I dead? That's a question I was asking. Of course, I'm not out of body. I am hallucinating, or I'm high. I think that's what you call being high. And I'm lying there, and I know in my head I was doing my calculations. Like my brain was working. Like, grab something, do something, show life, show some kind of life. But I couldn't move, and I was afraid that when my mom walks in, she is not going to know what happened to me. She would not know what happened to me. And there I was. I laid down. So then I remember telling myself, calm down. So I closed my eyes and then I started calming down. Like, I just let the process happen on its own. I could still feel, when you're closing your eyes, you can still feel your body as if it's spinning. That's how it felt like. My eyes are closed. I'm in a fetal position, but I could still feel myself spinning, just spinning. Eventually the spin just became slower and slower and slower, and it stopped. When it stopped, that's when I remember opening my eyes like this. I was like, okay. Then I lifted my arm. Okay, I could lift my arm. I looked around. I saw that the room was not spinning anymore. And so I was still weak. I could still feel that I was not strong enough to get up because my knees still felt jelly. My joints were tired. So, and then I just told myself, just lie here. So I laid there for 2.5 hours. My mom arrives at 5 o'clock from work. She knocks off at 4 and she takes transport to get home, and usually she enters the house around 10 past 5. So this is now 4:30. For 2.5 hours I'm laying there. So eventually I gained all my strength, got up from where I was. The sniff thing was, you were just scattered everywhere. Clearly when I fell, it also came along with me and then it spilled. I cleaned it. I made sure that even the smell of it was not, no one can get it. I sprayed some handy Andy. I did all kinds of stuff to get rid of the smell. Now, the aftermath. The aftermath is the amount of energy, the type of energy. I remember I cleaned the house. I usually clean the house. Now you tell me, why was Clantis doing spring cleaning 30 minutes before his mom arrives? Spring cleaning. That's what this thing did to me. I removed everything from everywhere. And I removed the curtains. Curtains, by the way, that were installed 2 weeks ago from a spring cleaning that was already done by my mom and myself. Here I am removing these curtains everywhere, in every bedroom. The beds removed from where they are. I'm sweeping and I'm mopping. Yay, my mom, when she walked into a war zone. She was like, Tasha, what's happening? I'm like, yeah, cleaner, ma. I'm cleaning, mom. She's like, but we did this 2 weeks ago. I feel like it's dirty. I'm now translating what my conversation with my mom. And my mom, she's like, yeah. So she gets on the phone, calls my brother, It's like, hey, what is up with your brother? He is acting strange. My brother's like, I don't know. Is your son? Ask him. Ask my sisters. My sisters are like, well, we came home and we saw what. Anyways, we're just watching television. We're not paying attention to him. I tell you, I was done with my spring cleaning around 9 p.m. And around 9 p.m., now this high became such a low, like a low. Fortunately, I go to bed at 9 o'clock. So when I start feeling that drop, and it was like, type of drop, I was in bed. Do you think I touched alcohol, cigarettes, and snuff again? To this very day, I don't drink alcohol, I don't smoke, and I will not experiment with anything that you ingest that might do something, some chemical imbalance or chemical reaction on my body. No. Me, I noticed that I like having my feet on the ground, controlling my body and my environment, especially my brains. So that's the reason why I don't drink alcohol. So whenever I'm with you and you're drinking alcohol, just know that he doesn't touch alcohol. And another thing is because it's a habit I didn't pick up as well growing up. Because I grew up in this church. Even when I left the church, in 2004 I tried it, but again I had like blood coming out through my nose and my mouth. Clearly my liver was experiencing, and even though this time around there were all kinds of mixtures that were done, I think it was a cocktail of some sort. I don't know, maybe I got a very weak liver. I have no idea, guys. I don't know. I've never gotten a diagnosis from a doctor that said, hey, don't take alcohol. But anyways, I do have natural alcohol. I think I'm good on that. Sometimes I do get drunk out of it. Okay, not get drunk. Whenever I do something stupid, it's because maybe I tapped into the natural alcohol in my body. So now, guys, that is my story time this Sunday for day 2020, for Vlogtober 2022, day 23. I hope you enjoyed the story. Let me tell you, I was supposed to tell you the story while I'm, doing the usual Sunday routine. But I knew that I was going to take way too long because the story is long. It's already 48 minutes in. Oh my goodness gracious me. So yeah, that is why I don't drink alcohol, guys. And how do I find out drinking alcohol? I don't have a problem with people who drink. The only time I would have an issue with the person that drinks alcohol is when the alcohol controls them. I always believe that as long as you are a human being, we all have self-control. So if you lack self-control, clearly you are a weakling as far as I am concerned. You let something that does not talk, has no brain, has no feelings or emotions control you. Clearly there's something wrong with the individual. So I stay away from people who are driven by alcohol rather than driving the alcohol. So yes, if I'm not offending anybody, please do not feel offended. If you're that type of person who is controlled by alcohol, I think you need to change that and realize that you are actually stronger than the alcohol rather than it's, you know what I mean? Anyways, thank you guys for listening and thank you for watching. Thank you for your support. Tomorrow, day 24 of Vlogtober, we are getting closer to the end and I'm getting excited. And if you liked this story time, please give it a thumbs up. I know I was all over the place, but I needed to give you a background to circle back to you understanding where I come from with this. And the funny thing is, I'm not a controlling person either. So I just like to control my environment. I like to control my body and my mind. That's very important to me. So yeah, thanks guys. Let's see each other again tomorrow for day 24. And also do share this video far and wide. Leave me a comment down below and let me know what is your own experience with alcohol, when you had alcohol for the first time, when you had a cigarette for the first time. What else? Have you ever tried snuff before, and what did it do for you or to you? I'm very curious to hear those stories. I thank you all so much, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye. Mwah. Ciao.